Blog Talk Radio.
Hi folks, welcome. I'm Dan McDermott. This is episode 1 of Google Plus Week, an unofficial look at the world's newest social network. I'm live in Lynchburg, Virginia, where I am every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Joining me in the Central Time Zone is Christina Trapolino from Houston, Texas. Christina, welcome.
Hi, Dan.
We're unveiling. This is a big unveil. I should have waited on this. This is Christina without her puppies. And I told her, I said, you got to have, I said, you're in your 20s and you're in Texas. You got to have a few MySpace pics somewhere. And she's like, no, but I'll take a quick one. So she cooperated. Good for her. And then also we have Daniel Bowie, who hopefully will be joining us shortly. He's running a couple minutes late. I think he was going to take a nap earlier. Okay, so we have Mike Miller on. Mike, welcome, sir.
Hey, thank you. Nice to be here.
And also we have Barb. I'm gonna get their pictures shortly. Barb, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, and then we got 314 area code. This is Dan. Who am I talking to?
Hi, this is Yana.
Hi. Well, how do you spell your first name?
It's Y-A-N-A.
Yana. All right. Cool. All right. Okay, okay, here's the deal. We're gonna start with Christine, and the rest of you folks, if you haven't yet, if you would like to just put a post up so I'll know who you are and just share it with me. You can share it with me by my Google Plus name, or you can share it simply by sending it to mcdermottreport@gmail.com. and I will get it. If you want your picture up when you're talking, we can do that. So, Christina, it's been a busy Google Plus week. So I know that there's a couple things. We want to talk about the naming issue when they were deleting people. But first, there was some news today. So why don't you, about circles. You heard from an engineer at Google, nice guy, and I think this thing went viral on Google Plus. So why don't you give us a rundown about what is new, effective today with Google Plus and Circles?
Well, most people who have been on Google Plus for a little while now will remember that you were once able to, when you added your circles and named them, it would sort of alphabetize them for you. And if you put symbols, you could kind of decide through that set of rules what was going to go on top and how it was going to be ordered. And then one day it just stopped working. It was like you would add a new circle and it was just at the bottom, and there was no at the bottom of the list, and there was no way to change it. You could delete it, you could start over, like it just wouldn't work. So apparently a lot of people sent in feedback about it, and they clamored for a way to change the order of their circles, and that has been done. I don't know the guy's name. It's one of the engineers who's working at Google, but he released a really cute short little video explaining now you go into your circles tab and you can drag them. You drag them around just like you drag people into circles. You can now drag circles, to reorder them, and then that changes the order for the entire site, like all over the place. It's the order that you choose. So I know that when I add people, I have hundreds of circles probably. So when I add someone, it's a real pain to scroll all the way through and find the order that just has no rhyme or reason. So now I haven't had time yet, but I know soon, probably this weekend, I'm going to work on reordering it, so it will be really easy to add people everywhere. It'll be really easy to control your streams to what you want to read. So that's exciting. And I think it shows, most importantly, that Google really is listening, and they are, they're implementing changes as they can. So it's pretty exciting. I think it bodes well.
All right, sorry, you caught me off guard. I'm getting Mike's picture ready. All right, that's awesome. That's awesome news. And then let me save that, and let me come back to me. All right, sorry, little ghetto technical difficulty there. Okay, so that's cool. They're innovating, and they're being they are responding to things. Now let's talk about that. You were pretty hot under the collar earlier this week about. Why don't you start from the beginning, and then let's discuss what happened, the reaction to it, and then let's discuss the apparent resolution. Is it enough? Too little, too late? What do you think? Let's talk about this whole naming controversy, Christine.
Well, I was never really hot under the collar about it. I have pretty much reserved. I really haven't given an opinion on it yet, and the reason is I don't really know what my opinion is yet. It's sort of a murky issue for me personally, and I think a lot of that is perspective. I've never had a reason to hide my name, so that's not something I can directly relate to. I do understand being private. You know, this picture that I took that we're sort of laughing at, I really don't put pictures of myself on the internet. When I was on Facebook, it was, you know, there was a small group of people that were able to see photos of me. I've always felt a little weird about it, so I can kind of relate to that. But I think Robert Scoble made a post that's just gone all over the place, like all of his posts do, about the privacy issue. He spoke with Vic, the VP, and at Google, and he seemed to feel that Vic's explanation was satisfactory. That, you know, they're working on it. They really don't want to. They don't want to, you know, oppress anyone. They're not trying to marginalize anyone. I think they just handled it poorly, and they're working on it. I can't speak for Google. I know a lot of people are really passionate about it. I've seen multiple posts, you know, that are just, people are changing their own names to pseudonyms, I guess, to express solidarity. It's pretty crazy. It doesn't seem to be slowing down either. I mean, I'm still seeing it all through my stream. People are still talking about it, which is great. You know, it's great that they have a platform that they can express themselves on. And I think Google really will take it seriously. I think they're really having to make a lot of tough decisions, and I don't envy them for that, because that's a, you know, I can see their perspective. They don't want this network to be full of people with, you know, crazy symbols in their name that aren't really their name, to, you know, playing characters that aren't real. You know, I can understand that, because I don't really want to see it on the network either. But, you know, I can understand if you don't want to have your real name too. And I think they're not, from what I understand, they're not forcing people to use the name on their birth certificate. It's more like you just need to have a common name. But of course, that opens up a whole new can of worms for a lot of people. So again, I don't envy them at all for being in that position.
Okay, well, let me ask, excuse me. What do you think about verifying? One guy said, I think it was on your profile, they said that they should be verified, or there should be an option for when the business thing happens, that should be verified. And my response back was that, okay, fine, but should it be optional? In other words, should you have to verify it? Because that's a lot of work on Google for essentially a free service.
Well, what do you mean by verify someone who is a celebrity, or someone?
Well,
or just
just a business. If you start up, you know, Christina's plumbing supply store, and you want to create a business profile for that, should you be able to, or should you have to provide proof that you are in fact that entity doing business as, so folks know if they're communicating with you, they're communicating with the real thing. And obviously, celebrities, this would be. I think Justin Bieber's on, and I think someone said, this is awesome, Duran's on, or I don't know if it's a fan page or whatever, and all these great songs, you know, went through my head. I was never much of a glam rocker or whatever, but I did like their music. They were great, and of course you weren't born yet, so maybe when your mom was vacuuming when you were a baby, you remember. But should there be verification, and if so, of celebrities and or businesses? Should it be optional, or should it be mandatory, or should it just be a free-for-all like it is now?
Well, it is a free-for-all now, and I think that's probably bad. I do think that I'm all for options. I think if I were running a plumbing business and I were given the option to verify that I'm truly, you know, that business, I personally would probably prefer that. Of course, I think people should be free not to have to. At the same time, that's just a sticky issue. You know, people want to know that it's the real plumbing service, or probably Justin Bieber is probably a better example. People want to know that Justin Bieber is Justin Bieber, or Paris Hilton is Paris Hilton, especially because we've had a lot of fake profiles. But, you know, they're going to have to tie it into the identity issue again. It's not, you know, they're going to have to figure out what their stance is on that first. And when they get to that point, I think then they can start talking about how they're going to verify, you know, people who are high profile, because right now it's totally not fair. I mean, I don't really have strong feelings on the pseudonym issue myself, but I know a lot of people do, and I bet it's really insulting that Duran Duran can be Duran Duran, and what is I don't know, the Scud or Bug Girl, or there's some writers who are well known by their writing name, and why can Duran Duran be Duran Duran, but they can't use that name? That's a really fair question. So they need to be careful not to have special rules for special people. That nobody likes that. That's a very I don't even think that's restricted to the American idea of freedom. I think that's like everybody. Nobody likes people to get treated specially just because they're celebrities. So I don't know. I think the option to verify is probably a good idea, and I think for businesses it probably should be a service that they pay for. That makes sense to me.
Well, it's good sometimes to be a celebrity. I know if you go to the new Twit Studios, I think you get like at least a second row seat now because you're a woman of Google Plus. All right, Christina Trapolino. She got some of her buddies to come on. So who should we go to next? We got Mike Miller. We got Yana. We got Mrs. Four, and another one I'm working on. What do you think, Christina?
Well, I don't know. Is there anybody who, while we're still on the identity issue, I don't know exactly what these callers. I know Yana, I'm sorry, I didn't catch how you pronounce it. I know she has a very specific thing to discuss, and I think that would be a great topic. But the identity issue, I don't know who's waiting, if anybody's waiting to actually talk about that.
I think we have one. I think we have in 920-215. This is Dan. Who am I talking to?
Xenophrenia.
Oh, can you spell it for me?
Xenoph.
Okay, I got you. I got you. Okay, I just want to make sure that was you. Is it okay to grab your picture from your profile and put it up for our folks?
It's not really a picture of me, but...
Oh, it's a cat. You're one of the Facebook people. No, I'm just kidding. All right, awesome. Well, what do you think? This is... how do you pronounce it again? It's
Xenophrenia.
Okay.
Oh, I say it, but I've heard it.
Xenophrenia. Okay, awesome. So tell me, what are your views on this?
Well, I have wanted to leave Facebook for quite a while because of their real name requirement, and was really excited about Google's more or less kind of allowing this until all this blew up. I've discussed it with, I think his name is Jonathan. He's one of the people working on Google.
Right.
Through comments. And he has basically said that if you have a well-known presence online as a name, that you should be fine. But I've known and heard of others who have presences online who've been yanked. I'm not really sure why I haven't been. It's pretty obvious that I don't think there are too many people out there with the name Xenophrenia. So there was a discussion on Twig, actually, for This Week in Google, with Dr. Kiki, and her being yanked off of there, and the process she was trying to go through to get reinstated. And she said that they were asking her about her Twitter and her web presence, which I'm thinking is why I've been left alone on it, is because I've been Xenophrenia for like 10 plus years. And I have a Twitter profile on that name. I have xenophrenia.com. I have set aside all these things under this name for that reason. So
I'll be honest with you, my guess is they probably think it's just it's a real name. I didn't know. I thought, well, that's not a name I've come across before, and I imagine they just think maybe you're it's from overseas or something. You're not from Facebook. You're from overseas, and that's your name. And who are they to dispute it, right? But the cat picture gives you away. I'm just kidding. I love cats, and although you may not get along with Christina's dogs, okay, awesome.
Oh, I like dogs.
Yeah, Christina's a big dog nut. Christina, what do you think? I think they should leave her alone, right?
Well, I think the idea that she mentioned about it being a well-known web presence, I think that kind of answers it. I mean, that's the same logic you're applying to a band like Duran Duran, or to somebody with a name that's obviously not their birth name. And I don't think they've ever really said that you had to use your birth name. I don't know where that started. I don't know if a Googler misspoke and is probably kicking himself. I don't know where that started because I haven't really seen anybody getting, I don't think anybody's getting booted off of it for saying their name is Johnny instead of John, for example.
Well,
but
okay, look, I think what they're getting at, let me get at this, because I know I have 3 newspapers, and on 2 of them now, prior to the creation of Google Plus, I installed Facebook comments, so that if it's a WordPress-based blog, but we're hosting it ourselves. It's not on WordPress.com. It's lynchburgtimes.com and fredcoreport.com. And under every story, in order to comment, we don't use the built-in WordPress comments feature. We use Facebook comments. So in order to comment, you log in with Facebook, and then you can type your comment, and it optionally it posts to your profile. Now, we found that got rid of spam comments almost entirely, and TechCrunch did the same thing. Michael Arrington did it, and they were debating about this. It gets rid of the spam. It gets rid of the haters who just get on there and trash you, and they're just idiots trying to get attention, the trolls. Because there is it's a lot of effort to create and maintain a fake Facebook page that doesn't get nuked. So I think they're kind of learning, this is like social networking 7.0, right? I mean, there was the Friendster and then MySpace, and all the other Orkut, and this is not their first rodeo at this. So they're kind of trying to improve, and I think there is something to be said. If I can't sign on as a fake name with no accountability, then I'm more likely, to be more restrained and more responsible in my posting. I'm guessing that's where they're coming from.
Well, sure,
yeah,
and that's fair. Yeah, that's fair, but you have to be really careful, especially on a social networking platform, especially when they've created this public sphere for people to, basically, you can talk about anything you'd like. So within their terms, obviously, but if you want to get on Google Plus and troll, if you want to get on Google Plus and be an idiot and cause problems, and that's your goal, I think the system they have in place, the way circles work, the way blocking works, although I think someone mentioned, Elle Gray in a post of mine mentioned that she thought that blocking should be a little bit more intense than it is. I agree. But you can block people, you can report them, they will be taken care of very quickly, and I think that system, if they would give flesh that out a little bit more. Users have a lot of control. You can keep people from commenting. So if you have trolls and people who are just causing riots on your posts, you can get rid of them. It's not. You shouldn't have to, deal with a huge number of them. But I don't think Google Plus is set up in such a way that that's necessarily that easy to do. Now, when it's easy to sign up just by going to the website, will that change? Probably. I don't know how easy that would make it. If 4chan decided to invade Google Plus, they tried once, but the invitation system, I think, is what's holding a lot of people back right now. So it's a tough issue, and they may not be able to really decide exactly how they want to handle it until it's open to the public. They need to see how it's going to really affect people. So I don't know.
I think all this stuff, people freaking out, people have a right to their strongly held view. It's all being worked out. A lot of people got upset because when you set up these profiles and you spend hours, picking who to add, I have certain people in a show prep circle, and I'll check what they're saying, talking about, to get a good idea to, maybe invite them on the show to talk about what they're talking about, or get an idea what to talk about. And if you've invested that time creating this profile and all of a sudden it's taken away from you and you feel for an unjustified reason, you're going to get bent out of shape. The other side of the coin is I saw this comedian, and he was, I don't know what show it was, but he was on an airplane, and they had just for the first time said you could use your cell phones on the airplane. And they worked for a while. It was a new system, and like 15 minutes into it, it goes off, and everyone's just like, oh, I can't believe this stupid system doesn't work. And he's like, it's the first time they've ever allowed it. You know, it's going through space. You never had this right 15 minutes ago, and they've just installed it now. It's like this thing, they can't take it away from me. So this is a free service. It's still officially in closed beta. And so I think we need to balance the fact that, yeah, there are going to be missteps, but we don't want them taking away our stuff if we've invested our time creating it. So I think there's a balance there that we have to be cognizant of as we go. Okay, awesome. Let me go. I want to go. Is it Mrs. Is it Mrs. Four?
Mrs. Fours.
Mrs. Four. Am I allowed to? Let me put you up here. Can you tell? This is a funny story. Why you're Mrs. Fours? Tell me why you're Mrs. Fours.
Well, the reason I'm Mrs. Fours is I'll tell you my real last name starts with Fours, that spelled differently. But I teach middle school, and I have a blogging presence, and I don't want my students to find my blog. So I'm Mrs. Fours on my blog, and everybody knows me that. Now, Google wouldn't let me have the numbers. I'm actually Mrs. 4444. But I'm hoping they'd let me have it because people know me as Mrs. Fours. I have 145 bloggers in my circle of blogger friends, and that's what I love about Google Plus is I didn't want to invite people from my blogging world into my Facebook page because to me, blogging is a little bit separate than my real life. I don't need everybody who reads my blog to know everything I'm doing. And now I can, have that social presence in different circles, and I don't have to publish it to bloggers if I don't want to, but I can. You know what I mean? I like that flexibility. I love it. I'm really loving this social part of being able to hang out with blogging friends using Mrs. Fours.
I think it's awesome, and I think some of the folks, I think they're not getting kicked off, not because you're innocent, but because they think it's your real name. It's like the country band Sawyer Brown. When they started, there is no guy Sawyer Brown, like there's no Pink Floyd, right?
Right.
But Sawyer Brown at the time, they were a group. There was no person in charge who owned all the equipment and they got all the money and the other guys were hired guns. They were a legitimate group and everyone split everything, and they wanted. But at the time, the record company said that there was the radio stations weren't interested in playing groups. I guess they had been Alabama'd out or whatever. And so they wanted individual artists. And so they came up with a group name that sounded like a person on purpose so that they could get radio play. And so they came up with Sawyer Brown so that they would fool the way like J.K. Rowling, they tried to fool everyone because they thought boys wouldn't buy a book by a woman.
Right.
And so they didn't call her Janet. But so I think that's what you guys are doing. You're pulling a fast one on Sergey and Larry. I
didn't realize they had the rule when I did it that way. It's just who I am. Anyone who knows my blog or talks to me about blogging doesn't know my real name. I mean, there's a handful of those 145 that know what my real last name is, but I just don't see the need for everybody to know it. I mean, just for me as a blogger, and I'm writing about my classroom, and I'm writing about, I don't need anybody to know where I am. You could find it out if you dug really hard, and one person has found out my real name and where I actually teach, but I'm not that worried about it. I just don't want it to be easy for sixth graders to find me,
I think it's neat. I think you have an option to be candid. You're still responsible and professional, but
right.
You can say funny things. I know a girl who was blogging about her experience. She worked at a PetSmart, and she had these hysterical stories that she would write about customers asking silly questions, and it was funny. But if she had said, "I'm so and so, and I work at the PetSmart at this location," she would have been fired. So
sure.
We wouldn't have gotten that. So I guess you're a deep undercover embedded journalist in middle school, and Mrs. Fours works. I'm cool with that. All right, and Christina, you guys, let me put Christina back on. I'm getting a buzz when Christina's not talking because it's picking up something. You all know each other, right, Christina?
Yes. well, I mean, we don't know each other, but I have seen Mrs. Forrest commenting. I started a conversation a few days ago about education, which is something I've sort of had brewing in my head since I first heard about Google Plus and dove in and saw the way everything was working. And it's mostly because I've been taking online classes, and I know how, gosh, it would just be great if Google Apps, if Google, Google Documents and all of the Google tools were used in class. It would be great. And then I joined Google Plus, and it just seemed like, man, this would be an awesome way to learn. And so I started a conversation about it, and Mrs. Forrest had a lot of insightful things to add. And it's funny, when you said Mrs. Forrest was on, I got a little excited.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
she's cool.
Yeah, she's got a lot of important things to say. And, I think for teachers especially, I think it will be an exciting place to share information. For a long time online, there have been forums, which I've always been involved in, pretty much since I've been online. And they're great little communities. They're sort of just scattered across the internet. I like to think of it like little tiny rural communities. And some of them are really big, like Something Awful, or, some of the large forums are like big cities. And I think the great thing about Google Plus is it's like a forum, except that you're always able to go look at another conversation. You're always able to go see other discussions. And it's not perfect. It's not exactly they still need to do some work with, I don't know if they're going to do hashtagging. I don't know how they're going to categorize data, but that's what they do. So I assume at some point they're going to figure out a way to do it. But that's why I think it's exciting to have educators on, is that they'll be able to have an educator forum. They can have conversations about teaching and, best practices, and some people will probably even be able to teach classes through Hangouts, and, it's pretty exciting. So.
Yeah, they haven't had their first revolution yet. Once they topple a dictatorship, then they've arrived. Then I'll be impressed. Come on, Sergey. Stop diving off of glaciers and get rid of some dictator. Then I'll be impressed. I'm just kidding. Watch, I'll suddenly be deleted from the internet. I'll never have existed. All right, awesome, Mrs. Forrest. And that's her real name, Sergey. Don't nuke her. Okay, so let's go.
Please don't.
Yeah. Okay, let's go. Christina, are we going to do Mike or Yana next?
Well, I really want to talk about Yana and Mike. I think Mike, I know we've actually worked together on some forums, and I want to talk a little bit towards the end about user impatience, and I think Mike will have a lot of great perspective on that. But Yana is...
You're going to make the guy talking... Okay, you're going to make him wait till the end to talk about impatience? Is this a test?
No!
All right, Yana.
That kind of is what I said.
Yeah, to test it. All right, Yana, let's get her up here. Yana Weinstein. Was it Weinstein?
I'm here. Hello. Yes.
Hi there.
Weinstein.
Weinstein.
Hi.
I'm sorry, like Harvey Weinstein and
That's
his brother. All right, Yana. What's good? Or Christina,
right.
You want to intro it, or what's the deal? What you want to chat?
Well,
Go ahead.
I would like to say how I came to know Yana. And is it Yana or is it Yana? Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, well, so Yana made a post a few days back. She made a post asking the community. She mentioned, it's that mentioning system that I'm really excited about with her. She mentioned a few high-profile people, and also me, and she was asking about doing a circle for knitting and how she could. I mean, she can tell that story exactly what she was looking for. But so she mentioned me, and she mentioned a few other people, and almost everybody that got mentioned dove right in and started trying to. Really exciting and great, and just warm fuzzy feelings. And then I'd actually really like her to explain what it was like for her, because I'm sure that was just overwhelming almost.
Right, yeah. So what happened was that I got on Google Plus, and like a lot of people who have gotten on early, I noticed that there wasn't really anybody around, nothing was going on, and then I started looking further, and I discovered that there was this huge photography community on Google Plus that had really sprung up and was doing really, really well, with thousands and thousands of people contributing every day. And I thought, well, maybe there's something like that we can do for knitting. So I sort of copied the photographers and made this database. And after that, I didn't really know what to do. So I thought, hey, I'll ask the people who know for help. So as Christina said, I mentioned a few of those high-profile people, thinking, oh, no one's going to listen to this. Everyone's just going to ignore me. And I had this flood of responses from those people with really, really helpful comments, including Christina, about all these different things I could do to help the community grow, to keep them entertained and engaged, to start discussions. It was really amazing.
Christina's Go ahead, Christina.
Well, I really wanted to. I was so thrilled. I never actually saw what Ryan Estrada sent you, but you seemed to have spoken to him. How did that happen? What happened there?
Yeah, he just said, well, you know what you should do? You should put out this little guide that says why Google Plus is awesome for knitters. And then he said, just have a catchy picture as the front page of it. And then I said, well, okay, I guess I'll have a go. I don't have any experience doing that. And then 5 minutes later, he was like, oh, here's something I mocked up for you. And it was just, he'd gotten a picture from Flickr, and then he put just sort of some cartoon, style wording on it to grab attention. And actually, I used it in a recent post to try and get the knitters who are already in the community to contribute to a guide I'm going to make soon about why Google Plus is great as compared with some other social networking sites that already exist for knitting, because there's a lot of reluctance on those people who are already using those other sites to come over and try Google Plus.
And just for reference, Ryan Estrada, he created, I don't know how many people who are listening ever used LiveJournal, but he created Frank the Goat, and he was super cute. When LiveJournal would have server problems, they would show a picture of Frank, like that he ate, like he ate the server or sat on it, or, all these different things. And Ryan has been really popular on Google Plus because he was the one who took the privacy terms of service, or maybe it wasn't privacy, some the terms of service, and he turned it into a comic to turn it into plain text so that people could understand, and people who don't speak legalese could really understand what it was about ownership. I think it was about whether you own your content, and he made it very clear that you do. And his stuff has just flown all around. I think Tom Anderson has reshared some of his work, and he's a really talented comic. So for him to have done that was just, I just kept thinking in real life, offline, how difficult would that have been? It just wouldn't have even been possible. You'd have to literally know someone who knew him personally. So that was exciting.
Okay, let me bring in a quick caller. This is 714 area code 202. This is Dan. Who am I talking to?
Hi, this might be David. Boyd.
Hey,
Boyd.
David, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. What's
I was going to say, I might be the guy you were talking about earlier about the verification for business and.
Oh yeah. Okay, David, do me a favor. Hang on one sec. Let me come back to you in just a minute. Is it okay to put your picture up?
It's a picture of myself and my girlfriend, but yeah, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Share. Go to your profile and do a post, and just say, "Hey, this is David," and share it with McDermottReport@gmail.com. I'll find it and I'll grab your picture, and I'll be right back to you. Okay?
Okay, cool.
All right, cool, awesome. Okay. Go ahead, Christina. I apologize. He had called a couple of times and got disconnected. I wanted to get him going.
Sure.
So yeah.
I think. Oh, I was just explaining who Ryan was. I wanted to ask Yana, have you had success yet? I mean, have you seen some activity that since?
Hello.
Go ahead, Yana. She's got a.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Oh, are you still there?
Good.
I'm still here. Yeah, it's been really great. The community has been really growing. We had a massive upsurge in the first couple of days after I released a database where people can sign up and sign in so that other knitters can find them when they join up. Then in the next few days after that, it kind of died down. But then I've been trying to find new ways to recruit people from outside of Google+, and that seems to be working out. A few people have come and tried it out, even though they weren't planning on trying Google+ out. Now they're trying it out in order to see if it can be a place for them to share their knitting. I've started doing these regular features every day. One's a photo of the day, a knitting photo of the day, and then one's like a news roundup. And I'm trying to get feedback from people on whether they are enjoying these posts and get them engaged and talking about it. Just something to sort of send to the community a little bit so that it's not just random updates that kind of go out into nowhere, but things that people can actually come and discuss and participate in. And I think it's working.
Well, now you're a community leader. That's exciting. How does that feel?
Strange. I have never really done anything like that before. It's kind of exciting. I feel kind of that I have to, I'm on my toes and I have to keep coming up with new interesting things for people to talk about. But I hope that other people also start their own communities. I don't know if you saw earlier, Christina, I tagged you in another post where I wrote up my experience and how people could apply that to making their own community for their own hobby. Just gave a step-by-step guide for how they can go and set up that spreadsheet and what things to look out for and how to keep that community going. Also, a lot of that was based on your tips, and of course, I acknowledge that.
Oh, well, that's I did see it. I don't think I got a chance to read it all the way through, but that's amazing. That's exciting.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, while I'm trapped in my editing thing, I'm bringing that next caller. Let's okay, that's awesome. That's a great story. And my mom is, I think it's a slightly different wing of that. She's a big quilter, and she's in her quilting guild and loves it, and I think it's just fantastic. So I think anytime you can have a sub community on a social network, I think that's awesome. All right, let's go to Mike Miller, who's been very patient and is going to talk about impatience. Mike Miller, thank you for your patience.
Oh, I'm a very patient. I'm a sysadmin, so I have to have a lot of patience.
All right, this is you and your other half, I guess.
Nope, that is not me and my other half. That is me and Christina from a band called Lacuna Coil.
Okay, cool. Well, we've just, I guess
the other picture that you look up there is me, myself and my wife.
All right, well, let me try to. I'll find that one. Go ahead, Mike.
Otherwise, just grab the one where I'm sitting on a couch. Anyway, I did want to, if I could, just real quick, touch on the real name / pseudonyms. Ugh, I can't talk today. I for the longest time didn't put my real name out at all on the internet. For 17 years, I've been going by the same nickname between bulletin boards and forums and the internet and stuff like that, and believe it or not, Facebook was really my first experience where, oh my gosh, I have to put my real name out there, which was probably in earlier in Facebook's before they really went public. Anyway, because I don't know if it was trick of fate or whatever, the fact that I'm born with a fairly common name, I don't have that big of a problem with it. You can pretty much find, now if you search my nickname, which is listed on my Google Plus profile, you can pretty easily find my real name. I don't really have an issue with Google requiring real names. Facebook sort of did it, they just didn't really stick to it as much as they could have. I can see, the advantage of wanting to stay anonymous on the internet, though. Like Mrs. Fors, there's a big reason there why she would want to stay anonymous on the internet.
Christina?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that at all. I think the real names policy, it's hard for me to commit, honestly, because I do see both sides of it. It's tough. Like, I see it from a personal perspective. I see it from wanting to keep myself private. I also see, there's an argument for, if you want to stay anonymous on the internet, why are you on a social network that requires a real name? You don't have to join it. But you don't want to leave people out either.
let me give my 2 cents here. I think when they first did this, one of the first observations folks had was it's more like a real social network in real life, like a hangout. You can join a hangout. You can just sit there and observe, just like if you went into a coffee shop, bar, whatever, park. You can hang out and just kind of, if you're shy, or you can talk a lot, or you can ask a question. It's just like a real hangout, and that was what everyone thought was so neat about it. And I think that this whole experience here, just like the fact that they're going to delete, they're going to tell you your profile, your Google profile, they're going to get rid of private profiles. They're going to say if you want a profile, you have to be real. Just like in a real social setting, if you came up to me and gave me a false name or refused to tell me your name if we're meeting, hello, I'm Dan, I would find that odd, and I would distance myself in a real social setting. If we work together and you're in the next desk or cubicle or next office, and you say, well, I don't want to tell you who I am, I would think you're a criminal hiding from something. Now, the difference is you have more control in a real situation over who you talk to, and there isn't the general public eavesdropping on you. And to a degree, you can control that with your posts. You can say, here's a post just to Christina or Dan, or this is to the public, or this is just to my friends or my family. But your basic profile information is pretty much out there. So I see what they're coming from, and it seems to make sense for me, and I think it's an improvement for all the reasons we've talked about before. But I guess this isn't certainly a unanimous thing.
If I can play devil's advocate here.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, if I can play devil's advocate here. Christina mentioned forums before. I've actually hung out with people that I've met over the internet on forums, and it's pretty common in those social situations to go, hey, I'm Dai Tengu, because that's the name I go by. I mean, half of them I won't, if they give me their real name, I won't remember that. I'm terrible with names. But I've seen their name with posts and stuff before. I'll know exactly who they are, and it'll click with me. So there's definitely 2 sides to the coin. In social situations, I mean, not like, say you were mentioning work, if you're in the cubicle next to it. Yeah, that's going to be a little weird. But in like social situations, if you're meeting people that you've met over the internet, I don't think it's so uncommon to not actually give a real name.
Christina?
Well, I think the only thing about that I don't necessarily follow is if you're meeting people that you've known online for a long time, that's not really the same thing as, if you went up to someone that you had never met before and introduced yourself as Dai Tengu. That would be, I don't know, that sounds like it could actually be a real name, but if it was something a little, more commonly used as a screen name, something that's, like 2 words, or I don't know, like there's someone on Something Awful whose name is just a string of letters. It's like you can't really introduce yourself that way very easily. That would be, a pseudonym is what that would be. So I don't know if that's exactly the same. That said, the profile is what I wanted to get back to, though, Dan. You said the basic profile information is out there, but you can actually hide everything on your profile except your name. It's a little weird. It's like you can only you can make everything visible to just yourself. If that's what you want to do, you want to sign up for Google Plus and you want to not show your gender, you don't want to show where you've lived, you don't want to show your you don't have to show anything. So if that's true, well, I don't know. I mean, if you're not going to show, I don't know why you're on the network again. But it is a little weird. There are certain things about it that don't quite add up, and I think it comes down to Google probably didn't think that people were going to get this upset. I don't think they ever had any idea that it was going to be such an issue. Or if they did, they probably had other things that they were more worried about, like code. I mean, they're Googles. They're Googlers. They are notorious for putting algorithms and math and code first. And, they're learning how to deal with people. So that's something to keep in mind, too, is they really haven't had to do this before. Not like this. They've done a lot of things with social networking. They did Orkut, they did Buzz, and they've done some stuff, but they've never had to really deal with backlash like this, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they react over time. Again, I think we'll know a lot more when this isn't invite only, when people can just go to the website and sign up. that's going to tell us a lot more. So
the best argument for allowing pseudonyms is they're never going to topple Egypt if you have to give your real name, because Mubarak and his cronies will come after you. You know, if it's Christina Trapolino in Houston, they'll know where you are. But
it's not.
Zeno is safe, right? And Mrs. Fours, she can overthrow Egypt because they don't know who Mrs. Fours is. See, there's a game. So they're not going to be able to overthrow Egypt unless they change this policy. That's your argument. This is in the interest of democracy and world freedom that they allow pseudonyms. How's that?
Well, works for me.
Bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty valid.
And who knew there were 1,200 different Justin Biebers? I didn't know. But they're all on Plus. I'm just kidding. I hope Duran's real, but I doubt it. Okay, so we got. Anybody else want to weigh in, or what other stuff do you have? I've got everybody live. If you want to, talk. Did you have another topic, Christina?
Well, I know you had someone waiting to talk about the business profiles verification. I'm definitely a little curious about that.
Let me get him up. This is
Hi.
That's not Mrs. Fours. D. I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and start. I apologize. I screwed up. Do you want to go by your first name that you told me, or do you want to go by what's on your profile there?
My first name's fine. My first name's David. Last name's Boyd.
Okay, David Boyd. Go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and edit your thing while you talk there. Thanks for calling in.
No problem. No problem. I honestly believe it's up to the business to have the option to opt in for verifying. I think that would be fine to leave it up to whoever creates the business to do that. The one thing I can see being a possible problem is if someone creates a business that's not an actual, like a Walmart or a Macy's or anything like that, and starts putting up these fake offers and coupons for things, I could see how that would cause a bit of disruption in the business. It could cause some anger with customers, consumers. So having the option to see if something is verified or if it's not would at least give a little bit of a little bit more information for the consumer to make a choice and the business to monitor what's out there in their name.
I like it. Should it be mandatory or should it be optional? People would like it, especially celebrities. Well, there's two separate issues, David. There's celebrities, so you know, like, oh my gosh, Justin Bieber, I worship you. You know that you're worshiping the real Justin Bieber, right? And then there's which is important, you don't want to, if you're going to have a false idol, you want to make sure it's directed correctly. But the other, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But the other side of the coin is for the, it's handy there. Twitter does it, but they only do it for certain ones. And then for the business, some folks might want to be on there, may not want to be verified or may not care. So are you saying it should be mandatory or it should be optional? What do you think, David?
Well, I think that if I were a business and someone copied my name, I'd obviously want to be verified that I'm that actual business and not somebody that's trying to pretend they're me and doing business under my name. As far as a celebrity, I would imagine that they would want to be verified because they would increase their followership simply because they are the actual person they are saying they are.
Yeah. So if you're going to scam somebody, this is not the social network of choice. You should scam them on MySpace. Right. I can't beat up on MySpace because Tom Anderson is such a good guy, right? We love Tom Anderson. He's my hero all over again.
Yeah, I just think if a business is verified, and for instance, like a financial institution or even someone that deals with health topics, and they may want, people may want to discuss things with them, it would be good to have that business particularly show that they're verified, that is who they are, versus an imposter who may be trying to either collect information or just cause disruption in another business's, their interaction with their customers. Getting a fake coupon would cause a problem, I think, with both the business and anger among the consumers if someone puts a fake profile up and puts, hey, here's, 50% off on whatever it may be. And a consumer prints it out and goes to the store and they're like, hey, but I printed this out and it was, from online. So
Daniel just woke up.
Think
I'm sorry. Go ahead, David.
No problem. I just think it would be a lot better for both the business and the consumer if the business was verified, although I don't think it should be required.
Why wouldn't they want it verified, though, is the question I have. Like, why wouldn't you want to be verified? Unless it's a service that you pay for, and then I could see, well, I don't want to pay to be verified. That's one argument. But if it was just you're verified or you're not, then, I don't know that you have to require it. Why wouldn't you? If you are who you say you are.
Yeah, the motivation to actually do the verification, whether I'm a business or a celebrity, I would say, yes, I want to be verified. Mm-hmm. Simply because if you're a celebrity, you'll know that the people following you would increase, and there's no confusion of someone pretending to be you and just causing.
All right. I've got a background issue. I don't think you guys can hear it, though. I'm going to mute Christina for a sec. If I mute her and then I bring her back, when she's not talking, it picks up everything. I think she's got an attenuator or something. But okay, I want to talk about this other thing. I'm here in the Justin TV chat room because I feel guilty. As I said, a couple shows ago, someone chatted like 2 screens worth of stuff, had all these observations as the show was going on. I never saw it. I don't know if anyone else saw it. He was the only one chatting. And then he's like, I think I'm chatting with myself or something. And I felt guilty because it was like an hour later I saw it. And I was like, oh, man, I'm sorry. And so I made a point today to watch. Anyway, so I got the fun guy. That's his real name. The fun guy said, Facebook apps are an invasion of privacy. He or she deleted all their apps and then changed their password. This brings up the whole question of the games and the apps, and I know people. Some of them are straight up scams. People. I'm afraid. I'm so put off by this, Christine. I want to get you in on this. On Facebook, attention, Christina, Dan has answered a question about you. Does he like you, or does he think you're pretty, or does he hate you? Which of these questions? One of them he answered, and then you're like, well, gosh, I'm so curious if Dan hates me or thinks I'm ugly or likes me, and so you go and you click on it. And then it emails all of your spams, everybody, and then says, "Oh, now Christina's on this," and so now I don't pay attention to any of that crap. I don't join anything. I'm not watering your plants. I'm not joining your quest to conquer whatever city. I'm just not doing that. And one of the reasons is I'm afraid I'm going to get addicted to those games. The same reason I don't buy lottery tickets. And I'm also, I don't want my friends being spammed like that. So now they're talking, and here I have Christina on mute. How rude. But now they're talking about bringing games into Google+, and this brings up the whole thing. On the plus side, obviously, games are a potential source of huge revenue. I think that's where Facebook makes most of their money, from Zynga, and if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Also, a lot of people like the games. They love their games, and they'd be like, I love my games. And one lady got really angry with me and with, I don't know who else, maybe you or whoever, because I apologize in retrospect, I was making light of the whole game thing and perhaps casting it in a negative light. And she got all hot. I love my games, and I apologize. That's great. But they're gonna bring them in. It's gonna be a separate stream. They're gonna very cautiously bring this in. I don't think it's a big deal, is it, Christina? What do you think?
Well, I think Google. Look, Google has already done a lot to set themselves apart from Facebook, and I mean everybody that's been an early adopter has at least at one time made a comparison. So they're definitely paying attention to that, and I think it's whether you like the games or not. And it's I'm not going to generalize. My mother plays, the city bill or whatever, the build a city, I don't know. She does that, and she is also the kind of person who has no idea what an invasive app means. She's the kind of person who, if she saw the question, does someone love or hate you, she might click on that. And it's, people who are not technologically savvy, but are savvy enough to be on Facebook are going to be taken advantage of by apps like that. Google knows that. Google wants everybody, I think, apart from people with fake names, to be able to use Google+. So it's in their best interests to do as little that Facebook did as possible. I don't think they're going to let, and I can't predict the future, but I just can't imagine Google letting it work the same way. I just don't think that they're going to do that. They might, and I know they are going to have games. I think they're going to keep it separate. If there are social games, I think it's going to have to be opt-in. I hope they don't do it the way Facebook did.
I don't think they will, and I don't think they will. All right, we should probably wrap it up soon. Always leave them wanting more, right? Did you have any other stories? Did you have any other stories you wanted to hit, Christine? Now that I've offended all the game players and the pseudonym people, and I've offended all the people who want to overthrow Egypt.
Real quickly, let's touch on the impatience issue, though, because I'm seeing it all over the place. It's like these changes aren't coming fast enough, and the reason that I mentioned Mike would have something to say about that, he didn't actually tell me what he wanted to discuss on the show, so I apologize to Mike for that. He obviously wanted to discuss privacy, but the impatience, I think it's really important to remember that when you, and most people haven't been in this position, but when you are building something, especially something made out of code, and there's a whole lot of people who want a whole lot of things, it is really difficult on a small scale to prioritize and to decide what comes first. And everybody thinks that their pet issue comes first. And the name issue, people who are upset about that, for them, that comes first. But Google's got a whole lot of things to work on, and they can't give us, dates, because then what happens if they don't meet the date? It's a very difficult situation to be in that kind of environment when it's fast-paced and they're
being an
breaking
apologist?
stuff all the time.
Are you being an apologist for poor Larry and Sergey and this nice guy? See, this nice guy Brett has gotten to you.
I'm not. I'm really not. I think that it's because I've been in that situation. I mean, I'm not a coder, but I've worked on forums with, close to 100,000 people who want this and that, and they all ask for different stuff, and they all have, well, not all of them, but most of them have valid points. And I don't know what Google is giving priorities to. I don't know if they're giving priorities to the right things. I have no idea. What I do know is, really, you cannot just get mad that they're not doing what you think they should be doing right this second. That's all. I just have seen a lot of that in my stream.
Look, I want all of this stuff done by noon tomorrow, and we're gonna we're taking on Gaddafi next week. So Google Plus, you better be ready. Mrs. Fours and Zeno and I are going to kick some Gaddafi butt on Google Plus next week with our pseudonyms, right? Or I'm done. I'm toast. I'm toast because he'll find me. Actually, I don't think he could find me. David, you got any parting words before we roll out?
Well, I do know, like my girlfriend's teenage daughter, she's very, speaking of impatient, she wants to be able to log on, and she's under 18, and their current minimum age limit is 18, so she's a little frustrated with that, and she's looking forward to games, because obviously she plays those too. But I think there's a large audience or users, I guess, group of users out there that are just anxious to be part of it, and hopefully they'll be able to be patient and wait for things to happen.
David, I got to ask you, are you telling us that your daughter hasn't made up some fake profile to sneak on there? Or is this like
no, He's actually very responsible. That's one of the reasons I mean, the age doesn't necessarily, reflect one's maturity. She's very respectful about the rules, and she's careful about where she goes when she's on and all of that. She's used it for school projects, tons of Google projects in school, and this is just an extension of that. Hopefully they'll open that up pretty soon.
One of the chat room guys here, one of the chat room folks just said developers never give a date when things should be done with a good reason because everyone's...
That was me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, you're double dipping here. You're typing, and I'm totally confused. I've got 30 people here, and I don't know what's going on. But that's you think they're all y'all mad now? Just promise something and be late with it. We'll have all this fixed next week, and then it's September. Go ahead.
I'm going through that with a client right now, where I was supposed to have something done a week ago, and it's just proving to be problematic. And as sysadmins will learn over the course of time that you never, if you give a date, always double or triple it. Actually, most people pick this up from Star Trek. How else would you look like a miracle worker otherwise?
This is Mike, right?
Yep. Yes, it is.
Okay, I want to make sure I have the right picture up. And of course, Mike had to get the obligatory Star Trek reference in there. I'm a Star Trek fan myself. I'm watching Next Generation all over again, and Crusher just got his promotion. So good for him. All right. Okay, Miss Christina was probably laughing at me for my but she should admire my boldness for being able to admit that I actually like Star Trek. Okay, Mrs. Forrest. Huh?
Will Wheaton is on Google Plus.
I know, and he says naughty things, unlike his character. Mrs. Forrest, do you have any
He's
final
a brilliant
thoughts?
Writer.
He is.
All I was going to say is that when I joined and when I heard this, scuttlebutt about the, getting the names deleted, I knew that there's a risk, and I still know there's a risk that they'll take me off. And I think what it all boils down to for me is I'm not going to die if they kick me off of Google Plus. You know what I mean? There's a lot more important things in life right now. And Christina pointed out, you put a lot of time and investment into that time and stuff. But I guess for me, I'm gonna just let the cards fall where they are, and hopefully they'll let me stay as it is, and ride it out until it all gets worked out. I appreciate being on there now, and I love it. But
I'm gonna feel so guilty because I feel like you're that journalist who came out and said I'm an illegal alien and he's going on TV, or I feel like I'm going to be responsible as the big sis Janet Napolitano comes. Yeah, she's going to come and drag you in handcuffs away, and I'll have to get a whole new picture of you. Save Mrs. Forrest. We'll take up a legal defense fund for you.
Yes.
Because you seem like a nice lady.
Thanks.
I used to teach school, and so I admire your patience. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I've got plenty of that, especially teaching special ed. But this week I got called Mrs. Fickenberg and Mrs. Figgelberger and Mrs. Fickle, and kids were having fun with my name this week. So as long as they didn't land on Mrs. Forrest, that was good.
Good for them. Okay, Yana, let me find Yana. Any final thoughts?
My final thought is just that I do hope that other communities are going to spring up in the same ways the photography and now maybe the knitting community has, and that people find ways to find each other, people with similar interests. That it's not just about connecting to people you already know. It's about connecting to interesting strangers with similar interests.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, Christina, I want to... This is our first episode. I had a couple technical glitches. I foolishly installed the new version of Wirecast earlier today, and I had a few problems. That was my fault. It's a great new thing, and we're going to be able to. We're looking at bringing a Google Hangout in a future episode, unless we get banned by Sergey and because I made fun of whichever one of them dove off the ice thing. But anyway. Christina, any final thoughts, and then we probably should wrap our episode 1 up.
I think the most important thing is to be patient. and take a lesson from Mrs. Fours as Mrs. Fours and not as her real identity. Be patient, and if your account gets banned, just go through the appeals process that's in place. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't, give it time. And that's what I'm going to end with, because I think it applies to just about everything in that system right now. It's just be patient.
All right, well, I appreciate it. Christina Trapolino joining us from Houston, Texas. Thanks to all of our callers who really appreciate it. You folks are always welcome to call. Our number's on the screen, 818-688-6625. That's the same number every show. If you're just hanging out and you don't want to participate, you can still call the number, and you can, you can listen to the thing. And if you want to join the conversation, then you can go ahead and press 1. McDermott Report kicks off again Monday night, every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. We're currently broadcasting on Ustream. We're also in iTunes and Blog Talk Radio, and then it gets uploaded to YouTube. If you check me out, my profile, I'll try to get everyone's Google Plus pages in the description that goes with this blog post. Today is July 29th, if you're looking at it in the future, July 29, 2011. My Google Plus page is gplus.to/McDermott. And I thank you so much for checking out the program. This has been episode 1 of the unofficial look at the world's newest social network. This has been Google Plus Week.